Well, howdy there, and welcome to Rising. It's time to saddle up and get this show on the road. Hello there, little lady.
This is what we get for talking about Ken before the show starts. Will this Barbie movie ever leave us alone?
I don't think so. I'm not seeing it. All right, what is going on,
All right,
Brianna?
I'm saddled up and ready to deliver some news today.
Excellent.
Okay.
Little lasso movement.
Well, it does really feel like the Wild Wild West in Washington, as House Republicans have subpoenaed 4 investigators as part of the IRS and FBI's investigations into Hunter Biden for alleged tax and gun crimes. For the GOP, these individuals were either present at or had direct knowledge of an October 7th, 2022 meeting highlighted by whistleblower Gary Shapley. It was during this meeting that Shapley claims lead prosecutor David Weiss insisted he did not have ultimate charging authority in the investigation. Both Weiss and Attorney General Merrick Garland have since refuted Shapley's version of events. Meanwhile, commentators over at Fox News speculated that top dogs at the DOJ are terrified to bring new charges against their boss's son. Let's watch.
In the big scheme, the Biden family influence peddling business, people are hand-wringing about where's the quid pro quo? Was he in business? Did they discuss business? And in the meantime, in the Hunter Biden case, here you have Exhibit A of how the scheme worked. You have these big, bad Justice Department prosecutors who aren't supposed to be afraid of anything. They got this guy dead to rights on a 10-year gun felony and tax evasion charges, and they're afraid to charge him. They won't charge him. The case is disappearing. The statute of limitations is running, but they're scared to death to charge him because they don't want to charge Joe Biden's son. They're afraid to do it. They're being told it would be career suicide to pull the trigger on a case like that. This is exactly what access to Joe Biden is. This is why people were willing to pay millions of dollars to get it. That's what the scheme was.
However, over on the other side of the aisle, CNN analyst Bakari Sellers argued Monday that Americans will reject what he says is Republicans' political persecution of the president's son for his addiction. Let's watch.
There is a whole lot of whataboutism when it comes to Hunter Biden. But there is a great deal of difference between the multiple felony counts the president of the United States is looking at versus some activities or actions by this president's son. And I think that has to be stated clearly. Republicans are going to try to Benghazi this to all hell. They're going to have hearings. They're going to say that there is smoke. They're going to say that we're going to have all of this responsibility placed on simply to distract the American people away from this election and drive up Joe Biden's negatives. That is all they want to do, is drive up Joe Biden's negatives. And I don't think that's going to work in this case. And the main reason I don't think it's going to work is, one, Democrats are saying if Hunter Biden committed a crime, hold him accountable. But two, addiction touches every single family in this country, or the overwhelming majority thereof. And this is a very interesting needle that Republicans are trying to thread by persecuting someone with an addiction. If while having this addiction he committed crimes, then punish him. But there's literally no evidence that this ties back to the president of the United States. And I think that whataboutism is going to fall flat as we head into this election.
This comes as this video from the beach near Joe Biden's Delaware vacation home went viral.
Yeah, so I think what you're seeing there is that somebody rented a flag to fly over the beach where Joe Biden obviously vacations that said prosecute Hunter Biden. So what do you make of this Bakari Sellers' argument that this is all about attacking Hunter Biden for having trouble with addiction?
They want it to be about addiction. The mainstream commentators want to frame it as about his addiction because they're right that that is a more sympathetic issue and he shouldn't be persecuted for having a struggle that many Americans have faced. But that's not the issue. They want that to be the issue because they're right. And some Republicans have, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, putting up the billboard of the nude photos, and all of that is lurid and gross and very beside the point to what are serious accusations that his involvement, Hunter Biden's involvement with Burisma and the Chinese firm, and his attempts to rope his father into it, improperly motivated U.S. foreign policy. And Joe Biden was on telephone calls and was at a meeting with a dinner with one of these executives. We know beyond any reasonable doubt that Hunter Biden was trying to bring his father into this, was trying to make his father part of these deals. That is potentially criminal. David Weiss's deal was going to exclude anyone from ever prosecuting, looking into that matter of Hunter Biden, and that is a scandal.
Yeah,
and that's why we're curious.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting parallel the Fox News commentator made there between the events that have looked so slimy, for lack of better words, in Ukraine. The argument that Joe Biden stepped in and threatened to, fired those who would prosecute and go after his son. That he's basically using his position of political power to protect his son in Ukraine, and then also either tacitly or explicitly doing the same thing in the United States, creating a situation where these prosecutors are unwilling to go after his son for potentially legitimate wrongdoing. Not potentially. What is obviously breaking these crimes, whether it's the gun charge or the failure to pay taxes, that there's an interesting parallel there. So Democrats are saying there's no there, don't look at what happened in Ukraine. He didn't, that clip of Biden, saying, I fired him. I'm going to fire you if you go after Burisma. Those aren't his words, obviously. There's something that is an interesting echo in what's ended up happening here in the Justice Department, where because of that tacit or explicit threat from Joe Biden, that something will happen to you if you follow the course of the law and go after his son. It makes it more difficult, I think, for Democrats to continue to defend that there was absolutely nothing to see here. It undermines our understanding of humanity works, how human nature works, to presume that Joe Biden wouldn't try to exert some influence here, or the fact of him being the president of the United States wouldn't tacitly feel like it was constraining the Justice Department, absent him coming in affirmatively and saying, I really want you guys to feel free to do what you need to do that's right under the law.
I also don't understand what the commentators think they're accomplishing by trying to pivot to Trump and say, what Trump has done and what he's being accused of is much, much more serious than Hunter Biden or Joe Biden. Okay, fine. They're prosecuting him for it. It's not that you can't say, well, Trump's, we're not holding Trump accountable for very serious things. He's being held accountable. He's being prosecuted in 4 different districts for a variety of crimes. The walls are actually closing in on him finally. You can't point to that and say, well, we get to excuse Hunter Biden because nothing's being done about that. Everything is being done about that. Everything. Yeah. And they impeached him twice.
The whole point is that it's a wash. And why Democrats are upset about this is because they were hoping that Donald Trump being tarnished by these legal issues would give Joe Biden, who is suffering from low favorability ratings just like Donald Trump, a boost. If it ends up being the case that voters can credibly or at least plausibly argue that both of these guys are in the mud, both of these guys have problems, both of these guys are criminally implicated or ethically implicated at the very least, then they can feel justified about voting for the person who better meets their policy prescriptions, the better person for president, for the office, as they see it. Democrats don't want people to be in that situation. They don't want to have to actually run on the affirmative merits.
You're absolutely right. Trump is disqualified, so you have to vote for the other person. Yes. They don't want it to be a wash, and that's what they're so afraid of.
And it's not just about Democratic voters, Republican voters being convinced not to vote for Donald Trump. Their main pitch to Democrats and the disaffected left right now is Trump is so terrible, so you have to vote for Biden. So then what does happen when Biden also becomes ethically implicated? And again, we shouldn't put the cart before the horse. At this point, there is no direct criminal charge against Joe Biden. And while the optics of these, I think, are undeniably horrible for the Biden family, the wrongdoing seems to be more squarely on Hunter than Joe.
Sure. The sweetheart deal is just so suspicious. It really is. There's no way around it. It is unprecedented. The judge thought it was bonkers. It was going to close off very proper scrutiny of some potentially very serious, very criminal conduct that guided U.S. foreign policy and resulted in Trump's first impeachment, or had a lot to do with Trump's first impeachment. I mean, Democrats opened that can of worms, and now they want it closed real tight, real quickly. And I'm sorry. You can't, I'm mixing a lot of metal. You can't put that genie back in the bottle. There's a structure that the thing is not in anymore and it can't go back in it. Sorry.
He's loose. You got to round him back up and put that pony back in the pen.
All right, let's not put the cart before the horse. More Rising right after this.